Good Sunday evening, South Carolina weather watchers. I'm your meteorologist, Joseph Peterson. Let's go ahead and talk about the weather for your Sunday evening going into your future. We have some stuff that we're going to go ahead and talk about tonight, but before we get into that, what are we going to talk about for tonight? Well, number one, obviously, we're going to talk about the conditions for right now. We're going to talk about weather for tonight, tomorrow, short term future, and our long term future. And then as we go into our what's on tap screen, you can see continued below normal cold tonight. We're going to talk about the significant warming trend Monday through Tuesday. We're going to also talk about our first notable rain chances arrive midweek, Wednesday and Thursday. And then an additional rain chance possible late week into the weekend. With maybe even a little bit of a winter weather shot, maybe, for some areas. We'll talk about all of that, and we'll also be talking about another winter weather threat as well. If you have not hit the like button yet, go ahead and do so. Right now, we have around a good let's see, 8 people that have tuned in so far and only 1 like so far. So if you're part of the 7 that have not hit the like button yet, go ahead and do so. It's free and you can change your mind at any time. That's number 1. And then number 3, hit the share button. Share with your friends, family members, acquaintances, people that you don't even talk to like that, because it is definitely going to help the channel grow. So what's going on right now throughout the entire U.S.? Well, right now, South Carolina, absolutely nothing. But if we look out the entire U.S., it looks like for the most part that we do in fact have some rainfall going on down here in Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. Northeast looking nice and dry. Midwest looking nice and dry. Great Lakes, South Central going into the desert Southwest looking nice and dry. But the main area right now is over here in the West, where there's rainfall and snowfall mixing. Montana, Idaho, Washington State, Oregon, California, all inside of on the gun for some rainfall and some snowfall. But what's going on right now throughout the state of South Carolina in terms of cloud cover? Well, cloud cover right now actually seems to be more on the heavier side. Looks like cloud cover is dominating most of the state. Going from the upstate to the Midlands towards the Low Country to the PD and Grand Strand areas, cloud cover is ongoing. If we look at cloud cover for the future, and when I say future, I mean for, tonight, tomorrow, the next day, the next 48 hours, we're going to push this forward. We start off here at 1 o'clock in the morning, still cloudy for the most part. We move all the way to 6 o'clock in the morning, going on over to around 9 o'clock in the morning here. You can see it clears up a lot as we get into tomorrow morning, especially as we go into later tomorrow morning. I mean, this is 11 a.m. Look at this, 11 o'clock in the morning. We have just nice conditions for most of us. Go into the afternoon, get to around 1 o'clock p.m., clouds moving over to the east. You move on to 4 o'clock p.m., nice and clear. No clouds to be seen as we go into Monday evening. And so tomorrow is just going to be more like a clearing type day. Now Tuesday morning, so Monday night going into Tuesday morning, seems like that we will have some fog cover for sure. Fog cover will be a bit of an issue from the Low Country over inside the PD and the Grand Strand area. So maybe even a bit further into the Midlands as well, but Midlands going inside the PD areas, maybe even a little bit of the upstate, all have a risk of some fog to develop as you go into Tuesday morning. But once you get past that, going into Tuesday, going into like Tuesday afternoon here, we start off at like 2 o'clock p.m. You can see, for the most part, still mostly clear. If you continue this forward all the way to 7 o'clock p.m., here we go. We have now cloud cover activity now covering over a good majority of the state again. So clearing tomorrow, and then as we get into Tuesday, we'll start to cloud back up. For our current temperatures right now, you have around a good 38 in Somerville, 42 in Charleston, as well as Beaufort, 45 in Hilton Head Island, and 35 in Georgetown, 38 Murray's Inlet, and 34 in Conway, 37 in Myrtle Beach, and 36 in North Myrtle Beach, 37 in Sumter, and 40 in Orangeburg, 39 in Columbia, and 43 in Aiken, 41 in Greenwood, and even a good 38 inside of Newberry, 40 Lawrence, 38 in Union. We also have around a good 35 in Lancaster, 35 in York, Rock Hill, 37 in Spartanburg, and 40 in Greenville. Now, what about for your low temperatures for tonight? Air quality, something's wrong with the website tonight. Nothing on my end. That's something on their end. So hopefully that'll be fixed tomorrow. But for our low temperatures for tonight, you have around a good 25 in Rock Hill, 24 in Shiraz, as well as a good 24 inside of Dillon, 29 Myrtle Beach, and 29 in Georgetown, and also as well as Moncks Corner, 37 in Charleston, and 31 in Walterboro, 42 Hilton Head Island, and 31 in Aiken and Barnwell, 29 in Greenwood, and 28 in Lawrence, 31 in Anderson, and 29 in Greenville. So, I mean, for the most part, you're seeing low 20s for a good amount of people, but mostly mid to upper 20s, and then as well as low 30s. And then you do see, the high 30s, low 40s near the coastal low country. High temperatures for tomorrow, you have around a good 50 in Rock Hill, 48 in Shiraz, as well as a good 48 in Dillon, 48 Myrtle Beach, and 50 inside of Florence, 50 Georgetown, 55 Moncks Corner, and 53 in Sumter and Camden, 55 in Columbia, and even 58 in Greenwood, 56 in Anderson, and 60 in Aiken, 61 Barnwell, and 57 in Hilton Head Island. Now, what about for your wind chills for tonight? Wind chills for tonight, not going to be too crazy, not too below for what the regular temperatures are. Not too below from what the regular temperatures are. But obviously, we will continue to see those cold temperatures as we move throughout tonight. Just not really as much in terms of wind activity. Now, what's going on right now throughout for our rainfall? Well, rainfall, and this is in terms of all precipitation. So you're including rainfall, you're including sleet, you're including snowfall. All of that, not really expected. We're not seeing any of that as we go throughout tonight, especially no snowfall and no ice. Now, as we get into Wednesday going into Thursday, we'll talk about it. But for right now, rainfall is not really too much of a concern until we get to midweek. The crazy score for tonight, you might be asking, what in the world is the crazy score? Well, the crazy score is a score that we see how crazy the weather is throughout the entire state of South Carolina. And right now, we are at a 32. Why? Well, this night crossed into low and moderate range, primarily due to the potential for patchy frost. That's definitely a concern with mid to upper 20s, locally mid 20s, combined with the efficient radiation and cooling setup. For a good amount of areas, especially as we get more and more into tonight, it will start to clear up a little bit more. Now, like I said, light winds, dry air, that will produce localized frost on exposed surfaces, on grass, car windshields, bridges, overpasses. And while no widespread hard freeze is expected, most areas to stay in the upper 20s to mid 30s. The risk of patchy frost on untreated surfaces adds a noticeable hazard for early Monday morning travel as well. So make sure if you're getting up tomorrow, you got to go somewhere tomorrow, make sure that you give your car to go in and defrost all that ice that it needs to get off as you go into tonight. So if you can go in if you have to go anywhere, so you don't have to go in and wait a little bit. That's the crazy score right there at a 32, so that's why we're there. SPC outlook for tonight, thunderstorms, not expected tonight, tomorrow, and for Tuesday. Thunderstorms are not expected as we go throughout these 3 days. Fire weather, nothing going on in terms of fire weather. Excessive rainfall, nothing in terms of excessive rainfall either. So we are good here. So let's go on now and look at the models. So this is the main portion of what I want to talk about for tonight. If we start off here, we're going to start off here at 9 o'clock p.m. And you go in and push this forward. You go throughout the nighttime. You go throughout 1 o'clock p.m., 2 o'clock p.m., 3 o'clock p.m., 4. And you just see dry conditions. Now, once you get to around 7 o'clock in the morning, you start to see some rainfall near the border. And for the most part, it looks relatively isolated, relatively light. And when I say border, I mean South Carolina and Georgia border. And if you continue this forward all the way to 9 o'clock, it's gone. Out of our hair, nothing for us to look out for. But if you continue this forward even more, look at this. Nice, dry conditions as we go all the way throughout Monday, all the way throughout Tuesday into Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening. Nice and dry conditions. That is what we were expecting. Nice, dry conditions. And then if we go on and look at our models, for the long-term future, we're going to start off here at the 54-hour mark. If you go in and push this forward, you can see, like I said, dry conditions. But look at this. As we get into Wednesday, around 4 o'clock in the morning, you start to see some rainfall starting to move a little bit near like the tri-state area of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. Now that will bring some more rainfall in. Here's like 10 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. Here's 1 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday. So we have some rainfall that's definitely going to be possible as we go into Wednesday. Going even potentially into like early Thursday. But, these are long-term models and they're not going to show everything exactly. Now, if you go on and look at even into Friday at 4 a.m. here, you start to see some rainfall, but you also see some snowfall around, here and there. Nothing too crazy, not like a full-on snowstorm. They are getting a good amount of snow up there in North Carolina, though. Maybe some rain mixed with some snow as we go into Friday, like even afternoon, you could potentially see it. But for us, it's mostly just rainfall. For the most part, it's mostly just rainfall. You continue this forward even more all the way through to around Saturday, going into Sunday, this weekend, and you have a huge plume of moisture making its way in. Huge plume of moisture making its way in. Now, one thing that I do want you to go on and look at real quick is look at the European model. If we go on and look at the European model, this one kind of has it to where, we have some rainfall moving through. And it doesn't really say too much. It has like some snow on the back side of it. But if you remember last night, it showed a good amount of wintry precipitation as we went into this weekend right here. So now it's kind of backed off. It's not showing as much wintry precipitation as we were thinking. And so since this is technically not really 10 days out or so, we can still look at ensembles for it, but for the most part, it looks like that most of the models are now saying that it's going to be all rainfall, that the Euro actually may have been a bit wrong with that a bit earlier. But, if you go in and look at the ensembles for it, this is the GEFS right here. GEFS throughout the next, this goes throughout, that weekend this weekend to where, there might be some snowfall. And it shows a good amount, shows around an inch potentially. Now, this is not a forecast. This is an ensemble. Okay, what is an ensemble? Pretty much it takes around 50 models, puts them together, and you get your blend, right? And it's the mean of all the models put together. So this is not a forecast. Not a forecast, but throughout the next 200 to 60 hours or so, mainly as you go throughout, this weekend, it shows a good amount going on over here inside of like the northern parts. Now, what about the Canadian? The Canadian, this one is a bit more on the heavier side. In fact, it shows, an inch in Columbia shows around 4 to 5 inches of snow inside of Greenville, Spartanburg, around 2 inches over here in Anderson. So, like I said, I think this one might be overdoing it a little bit. Just overdoing it because, 4 inches of snow, like I said, it is an ensemble, so it takes the mean of everything. So technically it's not impossible, but right now most models are pointing to this not happening. So this might be an outlier here. We'll see what the next one shows. But if you go even back into like the 60, for example, the 60 didn't even show that much. It showed it a bit more spread out and more even towards like the low country, for example. So just stuff to look at. Just stuff to look at there. Even if you want to look into, let me see, I don't think they have total. Yeah, no, they don't have freezing rain. But pretty much the whole thing, what I'm trying to say, even as you go into this this weekend, going into early next week, there's some rainfall there, and there might be some winter precipitation there. We're going to have to continue to watch and see what happens there. You can keep on pushing it forward, and for the most part, just some more rainfall here and there, but, nothing crazy, maybe a couple more cold fronts, but that's all that I really have to see there. So let's go on and talk about the weather for this week. We'll talk about the temperatures afterwards as well. But we're going to start off here with the temperatures and the averages for this week. And so we're going to start off by looking at it from Sunday here all the way into Sunday of next week. And for the most part, it shows a good amount of a warm up going on over there inside of the western part of the state. Maybe a bit on the eastern part of the state could be a bit cooler than normal. And so that's just for temperature. So warmer than average seems more in the upstate, cooler than average more towards the coastal areas, maybe more near average in that white area in the middle. And then in terms of precipitation, green, more above average in terms of precipitation. And then in terms of below average precipitation, that's more in the yellow areas. White areas, that is near normal. And so, looks like more warmer, but maybe a bit more moist inside the western areas of the state. But possibly cooler, maybe a bit warmer or more average, but drier on the eastern side of the state, near the coastal areas. So that's what we're just looking at right now in terms of our forecast for the week. Now, if we go on and look at the actual forecast from the Weather Prediction Center, we're going to start off with snowfall first, or rainfall first, and just precipitation in general. We're going to look at the WPC. We're going to move over into the southeastern U.S. And so if we go on and look at the next 7 days, you can see for the most part, as we move throughout the next 7 days, this is how much precipitation we could potentially see as we go throughout the next 7 days. And so it's not a whole bunch. You see like an inch up here in the upstate. You see around half an inch throughout a good amount of the Midlands, parts of the upstate PD areas, the low country. But that's what we're just looking at as we go throughout the next 7 days. Now, in terms of temperatures, that's obviously a whole nother story. If we go and look at temperatures, especially as we just saw most of the state being warmer than average. We go into our temperatures here. We're going to start off here, going to Monday morning, tomorrow, 7 a.m. We have below freezing temperatures. Going to like tomorrow in terms of high temperatures, looks like we're in the 50s, 60s for a good amount of us. Even as you go into Tuesday, during the day on Tuesday, a lot of us are being inside of the high 60s, maybe low 70s as we go into Tuesday. Then we go into Wednesday. My main concern with this was being that cool air as it moves its way through towards the state. Like you can see kind of like at the top part of the screen, you see how we have like some cold air trying to move its way down. That is right there. Kind of like a bit of some cool air coming in from the north. And so that will kind of prohibit those temperatures to getting as warm as we thought they were going to be. Now, there will still be some areas who still get, 70s. Yeah, that's definitely possible. But more on a widespread basis, we're not seeing it as widespread as we usually would have seen it. Going into Thursday, things cool down. Just 50s, maybe some 60s here and there. Low temperatures aren't looking as bad, though. I will say low temperatures are looking a lot better. Not freezing in the 20s and 30s for the most part. Now, as we go into like going into next weekend, still looks like, we're in the 40s. But, even high temperatures, for example, on like Saturday, only in like the 50s and 40s for a good amount of us going into Saturday, Valentine's Day. So that's pretty much all I have to say in terms of the week forecast. So again, here are your averages if you want to go in and see them. Below average temperatures for the eastern part of the state in the blue. Orange, tannish, maybe a bit red in the western part. Precipitation, more above average in the northern parts. And then below average in like the low country, southern Midlands, PD areas. So that's all I have to say there in terms of the models. I'm pretty sure I went over everything for tonight, went over the week forecast. Additional rain chances late into next weekend. First notable rain chance arrives midweek. I think that's about all. So let's go on now and talk with the audience. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us at 9 o'clock. Yes, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And if you have to be a subscriber of the channel, because if you're not a subscriber, you cannot type. But luckily, subscribing is free. So we're going to start off with Mr. Chris here first. He said, good evening, everyone. Hope you all had a great day. I did. Thank you so much for asking. My Aunt Lewis says, good evening, everyone. I pray that you all had a wonderful day. I did. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Chris says, currently it's 37 degrees here inside of Moncks Corner. Well, right now at my house, it's around a good 35. Right now, about like a good 35. Um, he also says was very cool today. Only got to 48. Today I got to around 49, 50. So around 50-ish. Maya Lewis says, I don't know about you, but today in Georgetown was very cold. Banana says, hello, Jay. A beautiful day. Thank you so much. I soaked up some rays before I headed to the bed. Well, that's great to hear. Glad that you got some sunshine today. Mr. Chris says, please remember to go and hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't. Also, share everything that you know. It's free and it helps the channel grow. He's absolutely correct. Right now, we have around a good 27. 27 people that have tuned in so far, and we only have 4 likes. 27 people have tuned in, and we only have 4 likes. If you are a part of that 23 that have not hit the like button yet, go on and do so. You know, it's free. It takes only like a couple of seconds. It's not that hard to do. Really not that hard to do at all. So please go on and hit the like button if you have not already. And hit the subscribe button if you're new. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. Maya Lewis says today in Georgetown it got to 38. 38, like in terms of your high temperature. That's a bit low right there. Maya Lewis says currently also with temperatures only 33. And then I'm glad that we're going to warm up soon. Troy says, greetings everyone, greetings to you. Maya Lewis says, nephew, did you see anything about the 2.9 magnitude earthquake in South Carolina at about 9 o'clock p.m. on Saturday? Yes. In fact, I had people texting me about it because it was indeed right near where I was. I did not get it though. You know, I didn't feel it at my house, but I know a lot of people who did feel it. If we go on to the earthquake monitor real quick and check that out before we continue, it was inside of Centerville, South Carolina, just to the south and west of Latson, and just to the south of Somerville, just to the north and west of North Charleston as well. And just that in that same area where we just saw an earthquake, like not even a week ago or so, another earthquake happened almost in that same area. And yeah, I think they had it around a 3.2, but they did drop it down to a 2.9. They did drop it down to around a 2.9. If I go in and check it out. Yeah, so at a 2.9. So not, the strongest. Definitely stronger than the one that we saw on February the 3rd during that morning time frame. But over inside of this area, this one happened at, let's see, that was around 10:37 p.m. ish or so when that happened on Saturday. But yes, thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. I was going to talk about that tonight. That's just getting just I trust all is well. All is well with me. Thank you so much for asking. Another great day here in San Antonio. Was pretty warm for February. High was around 82 degrees. Yes, 82 degrees. That is very, very warm. And I think for you, you will be happy to know that will continue. Milo says California is pretty warm also. Must be nice. Mr. Chris says, can't wait for the warmer weather. Same here. And that's all that I see here throughout the entire chat right now. So we'll come back to it. But first, let's talk about the 4 locations outside of South Carolina. You might be asking, 4 locations outside of South Carolina? What are you talking about? I'm talking about San Antonio, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as Duncan, Oklahoma. The reason why we talk about these 4 areas is because we have people from these areas who tune in almost nightly. And because they tune in almost nightly, we go on and talk about their areas. South Carolina not even being their main areas and main location, yet they still show up. So we start off with San Antonio first. Low temperatures tonight around 55. High temperatures tomorrow at around 82. And then low temperatures tomorrow night at around 59. Now, in terms of your precipitation, severe weather or excessive rainfall, that's not expected at this time. But for your future, may have a little chance of rain on Tuesday night, 30%. Maybe again on Friday night going into Saturday. So you could start off your weekend rainy next weekend. So that's something to look for. And then in terms of your temperatures, it looks like that you will continue to be in the 80s for a good amount of the week. Friday going to be 83. And even as you go into next weekend, Sunday, 79. Now, what about for Raleigh, North Carolina? You have low temperatures tonight around 18, high temperatures tomorrow around 43, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 29. Precipitation not expected at this time. Severe weather, excessive rainfall not expected either. But in terms of your future, looks like that you definitely will have a chance of rain Friday going into Friday night, even a chance of snow as well as you go into Friday. You know what we were talking about over here in South Carolina. Like I said, North Carolina could get some potential snowfall mixed with some rain. Now, in terms of your temperatures, you will warm up. Tomorrow only 43, Tuesday 64, Wednesday 61. But it will cool back down. You have like a little bit of resurgence on Tuesday, and then a cold front will pass on Wednesday. Now, in terms of Philadelphia, you have low temperatures tonight at around 6, high temperatures tomorrow at around 28, low temperatures tomorrow night at 16. Precipitation not expected. Next chance of rain will be next week, Sunday. So you got a long time until you'll see some rain or some snowfall. For now, things can change. You know, we see things change the day of to where they may add like a little slight 20% there, maybe even a 10%. But in terms of your temperatures as well, temperatures will be warming up, but not before tonight, as you'll have wind chills down to the negatives. And then the final location being inside of Duncan, Oklahoma. Low temperatures tonight around 46. High temperatures tomorrow at around 80. And then low temperatures tomorrow night at 57. Precipitation not expected at this time. Even though you will see a potential chance Tuesday going into Tuesday night. Tuesday night you have a 50% chance of rainfall. Thursday night a 30% chance of rainfall. And then showers are likely going into the weekend. So that's something to look for. And then in terms of your temperatures, you will be cooling down. You know, you'll continue most of the week being in the 80s, 70s, and, Wednesday you'll drop into the 60s a little bit. But, you'll stay relatively high until you get into probably around like close to Saturday where your highs will be near 60 degrees like flat. So that's, brings up that chance of a 59. So you will start to drop, but, not as hot as 80 and, in 70 degrees-ish or so. But for the most part, still stable and still tolerable. And that's all that I have to say here in terms of these 4 areas. What's going on right now throughout the entire U.S. weather news-wise? Well, Arctic air will linger to the east. However, winds will slowly subside, and a slow moderating trend starts during the week. Moisture continues to provide rainfall in the higher elevation, rainfall and high elevation snow for the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, and the Northern Rockies through Monday. For the state of Hawaii, dangerous surf conditions with strong winds, heavy rainfall will impact the islands through Monday. So a lot of stuff going on there. Some fire weather concerns is possible. As you go into Tuesday, inside of the northern Texas, inside of Oklahoma, the Panhandles, Nebraska, Colorado, like southeastern Colorado, and going inside of southeastern Wyoming as well. And so that goes all the way through, mainly tomorrow, and then, like I said, maybe potentially Tuesday, but I think actually probably more like Monday, tomorrow. So that's all that I have to say in terms of the areas outside the U.S., not outside the U.S., outside the state of South Carolina. Mr. Chris says, just rechecked my temperature, and it's 36. Right now I'm at, my older weather station says 33. My newer weather station, where is it at? Says 34. So, it's definitely still a bit lower than yours. Still a bit lower. But that's all that I have to say here. In terms of forecast for tonight, if you have not hit the like button, like I said, go in and do so. We've had 33 people tune in tonight, and we only have 7 likes. So if you are a part of that group of 26 that have not hit the like button yet, go in and do so. It's free, and you can change your mind anytime. Also, hit the subscribe button if you're new. 702, trying to get to 800, 98 away. Hit the share button, share with your friends, family members, acquaintances, people that you don't even talk to like that, because it really does help us out, and really helps out get us to that goal. And also helps y'all get better content. So you should want to share because it helps y'all get better content for y'all's weather forecast. But that's all that I have to say here throughout the forecast for tonight. Top fans of the night for tonight. If I go on and check, it's still continuing for the most part to be neck and neck. But if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chris is at number 1 tonight, barely. Maya Lu is at number 2, and then Thad's at number 3. Congratulations to the 3 of y'all for being the top fans of the night for tonight. If you want to be a part of the top fan, you can by joining us here at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and also being a subscriber to the channel, being here early, being active as well. All of that will help you out. That's all I have to say. Make sure that you tune back in tomorrow morning for your Monday morning forecast update. We'll also be here tomorrow evening, 9 o'clock p.m. with your Monday evening forecast update. And that's all that I have to say for tonight. If you are watching the Super Bowl tonight, hopefully you enjoy that. And, I know some people probably might be watching it now, so I'm going to go and get out your way. I'll be back tomorrow. Make sure you hit those 2 buttons before you leave if you're new.